is Christian Larson. Um, we are working with Poti, Georgia.
My name's Luis Pena. So for the introduction, we're going to just read off our section. So for my section, the city of Poti in Georgia has the largest port in Georgia, responsible for much of the business activity seen in the country through oil and cargo transportation. Georgia has four main ports. They are the Poti Seaport, the Batumi Port, the Port of Kulevi, and the Port of Supsa, which are a vital link in Georgia's economy and transfer point for handling oil and oil products.
Yeah, so these ports are very, very important. They run year-round, 24/7. They don't stop. They're not only main access for the country itself, but the entire region of the world gets a lot of their shipping through these ports. And obviously that has an effect on the beaches, and because they get a lot of travel and use.
So for the physical setting lens, the city of Poti, Georgia is very flat lands consisting of wetlands. The city of Poti is more of an economic hub than a tourist destination in regards to its beaches in comparison to the city's neighboring beaches. To protect Poti from periodic flooding in 1924, a canal was built to connect the southwestern part of the lake with the sea. After some time, powerful storms eroded the canal and it was replaced by a straight 1.5 kilometer long, 140 through 150 meter wide, and 3-4 meter deep watercourse.
Yeah, and so a lot of the beaches in Poti aren't really for tourists or get a lot of recreational use. Some like the surrounding areas do have like more friendly recreation type areas, but Poti itself, the beaches, like I said, it's more of a economic city than a place that tourists come and really see a lot of use. As you can kind of see, there's not a lot going on at the beaches there.
For ecological lenses, the beaches of Poti, Georgia support bird life common in wetlands such as the greyhorn, heron, the great egret, the little egret. Birds are sustained from the fish ecosystem living in the beaches. The beaches and dunes serve as a nesting area for animals such as turtles and shorebirds.
Yeah, and so again, while the port is important for the economy and the supply line of the continent, it does have a negative impact on these birds and wildlife. When you have that many ships so consistently coming through, it produces a lot of greenhouse gases, and birds especially are kind of vulnerable to that. Their biology is very susceptible to things like greenhouse gases, especially, and kind of upsetting their environment more than other things. Yeah, so some more careful studies need to like kind of precisely measure how bad it has truly impacted it. As not a lot of like studying really goes on in this specific part of the world, which is unfortunate. But like I said, birds, their natural system for taking air and breathing and stuff is very sensitive to this kind of stuff. So it has had an impact.
Now for human dimensions / access lens. Some people living in Poti, Georgia rely on the beach's resources as a means to sustain themselves through fishing, job opportunities through the city's ports, and economic activity by tourists during summer.
Yeah, so the Poti Seaport again is huge economic impact on the region, handling any kind of ship, that is out there. And 15 berths, 550 ships, give or take, per year. And these aren't these small little ones. These are the big ships that are coming through with big containers and carrying lots of stuff. So it has a very, very big impact for the region and the country itself, because a lot of that money goes straight into the country of Georgia. Yeah, as you can see there in that picture, that's one of like the berths in the port, and those are some big ships coming through.
Now for the cultural lens, our first one's going to be on business culture. Citizens of Poti, Georgia value collectivism. They value their family and friends highly. An example of where this can be seen is through their traditional feast named Supra.
Yeah. And so, this obviously we've talked a lot about the economics of the Poti and its beaches and all this stuff, and really the ports. The city itself is kind of struggling financially. Most of that money isn't seen totally by the city as like kind of like the way the government runs is they kind of take all the money and then they disperse it more evenly throughout the country. And so, unfortunately, Poti itself doesn't get as much of help as it would like, but it obviously still very much does because this creates a lot of jobs there that people need.
For the second cultural lens, we're going to be discussing masculinity. The citizens of Poti, Georgia have a strong sense of masculinity. They're very competitive in their society and they value success, a dominant trait.
Yeah, yeah, and the city itself is trying to change kind of its perception and stuff. It does kind of want to become more of a tourist destination because it does have these beaches, and those often gather tourists to come and visit and stuff. And the city itself does have some other local attractions other than just being by the sea. But obviously, being by the sea is a huge one. People come visit from out of town, within country or out of city. I know there are some surrounding beaches that are more away from the ports and such that are more tourist friendly.
Our first threat, we're going to be discussing pollution. So, due to all the economic activity as a result of the port in Poti, Georgia, its beaches are threatened with pollution from plastic, sewage, and oil. A study indicated that the Batumi port is the main source of atmospheric pollution in the region, followed by the Poti seaport. Tanker, general cargo, and container ships are the main polluters of all ports and emit almost 82% of all emissions in the Georgian ports. Container and general cargo were the largest polluters in the Poti seaport and emitted the highest amount of exhaust gas emissions with more than 85% of total emissions.
Yeah. So the pollutions from the the ships themselves is also a big deal. And again, it's very important economically, but with a lot of situations, as these become more and more vital economically, it brings in more people, more companies, and those businesses aren't always the best at dealing with their pollution, whether it's plastic or runoff or just producing more CO2, greenhouse gases. Um, so that is something that the area kind of needs to deal with. As you can see with that picture there, it can be pretty bad on some of the beaches, and this would, obviously affect the ecology and ecosystems there as well.
Our second threat is climate change. Due to climate change, rising sea levels are a threat to Poti, Georgia, that have caused massive economic damage through floods impacting the livelihood of the businesses that surround Poti. Georgia's largest seaport, Poti, is facing threats from flooding the dam of the River Rioni, not far from the Poti. From Poti, when out of commission, Georgian public broadcaster reported this dam protects the city from floods and also serves as a bridge. Emissions from shipping also contributed to ozone generation. Exposure to ozone has negative effects on the life of plants and marine life.
Yeah. And so another big issue of this too is with the threats is beach erosion. Obviously, climate change affects this, but also all the construction going on, filling these big ports on these beaches interrupts, as we've learned throughout the semester, the sand cycle itself. And so beaches are getting cut off from their sand supply and sand cycles being interrupted. And then you combine that with threats like climate change, it can really, really start to make some of these beaches disappear.
For threat number three, we're going to be discussing coastal development. The construction of new infrastructure around Poti, Georgia beaches can impact the ecosystem and animals such as fish and birds. Exhaust gas emissions from ships, such as NOx, SOx, PM, VOC, and CO2, have a detrimental effect on human health and marine ecosystems through eutrophication and acidification. acidification.
Yeah. To also, like, so this is all this stuff being in the water has affected the actual oxygen levels in the Black Sea as a whole. Oxygen levels have been depleting, and obviously, understanding wildlife, some of this is wildlife is very, very sensitive to oxygen levels. A lot of fish need very specific, um, oxygen levels to keep healthy and being able to keep reproduce at good levels. And these are food sources for the birds that are living on the beaches and stuff. And the coastal development just adds this, and it's putting a lot of pressure on the beaches and the ecosystems that those beaches um, are there to provide for.
In conclusion, the beaches of Poti, Georgia bring in economic and cultural benefits to the surrounding environment. It spurs business activity and brings in people of different backgrounds. It is to the benefit of Poti residents to reduce their carbon footprint, reduce pollution through recycling efforts, and continue to battle against rising sea levels.
Yeah. So Poti, Georgia, is an important city for the country and the entire region of the world. However, these beaches are under threat. They're under threat from pollution, contamination, runoff from businesses, um, greenhouse gases. The beaches are eroding away too, and part of it is also that they're damming up some of these rivers for hydroelectric power, and then that interrupts new sediment coming down through the rivers and stuff. So in conclusion, though, the beaches here, um, they're under a lot of pressure, under a lot of threat, and unfortunately, the country just doesn't seem to have a lot of resources to spare on trying to protect these. But hopefully, as if these places become more tourist destinations, it would help bring in money in order to help preserve these important beaches and ecosystems. And here's some of our resources cited. But thank you for watching this, and hope you had a great semester.
Thank you.
Thank you.